Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, and today I got Jon Sawatsky in the house.
Hello!
One of the many kobolds running around on the interwebs creating cool stuff for us to use in our games.
That's right. That's right. Here I am. They let me out of Wolfgang let me out of the Warrens this morning to come and chat. Normally, I am kept chained up next to a thin bowl of gruel, just converting Pathfinder to 5th edition all day long. But
is that what you do a lot of? Because the converting?
I did a big project. And when they released the Demon Cults and Secret Societies book, that was originally all written in Pathfinder by Jeff Lee, and they needed a 5th edition version of that done. So I definitely I had a big portion of stuff to convert. I got a lot of experience doing that. It was a big conversion.
No, I felt like I had a copy of that.
Yeah. Hang on.
Oh, there it is.
Got it?
Yeah, I'm like, I know in this stack of books, this is one of the things that I have for sure.
There you go. There you go. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. I love the art on the cover of this book. It is so great. I know this isn't the best way to show you guys, but
no, it's all good.
It looks like you guys got like a Juggalo witch on the cover, just so you know.
That's awesome. Hang on, I have here I am. I got this sweet collector's edition. It's it's got this snake skin, sort of fake, obviously not real. Everybody, we didn't actually, or maybe we did kill. No, we didn't kill snakes.
We did, but only from the elemental plane of fire. So
yeah, that's right, okay. Exactly. So I got this sweet, and it's like all this like beautiful paper and stuff. Anyway, I love this book, and this came to me as a Pathfinder manuscript. And I'll be honest with you, I knew very little about converting from Pathfinder to 5e when I started that project. But then by the end of that project, I knew exactly what I was doing. Well, more or less. Or rather, I knew all of the things that I didn't know. So that was helpful.
Yeah, Grant Ellis is calling it the Motley Crue edition. I love that.
Yeah, right. But that was a brilliant manuscript. And man, I spent I think I spent about 2 months just steeped in like demons and devil worship and just like the most evil, villainous, just, like there's some dark business in there. Like Kobold Press is not afraid of the dark. And by Christmas, which was when I was turning over the manuscript, I had spent so much time in this, my whole world had just become this really narrow, dark field. And I was trying to pitch Kobold Press on some manuscripts for some rainbow unicorns, just so I could get my head out of that darkness,
You show up to Christmas dinner in a robe with a cow pulled down.
Exactly right. Oh, you look a little different, Jon. What's going on? Anyway.
Yeah, that's crazy. There is a question in the chat. Is Jon a brony?
Oh, right. So, do people use that word anymore? Is that still a thing that happens?
I don't know.
I don't know, actually. No. The short answer is no. But my son, when he was little, we liked My Little Pony, and we would watch it together. He liked My Little Pony, and I would just be like, yeah, I'll watch this with you. Okay. And then we would watch it. And then I really got into it. And I would be like, I love the lessons and the stories. This is amazing. Oh, wow. And then he, of course, as kids do, moved on, right? Kids, their interest is like this. But I kept kind of coming back to it. I'd be like, so are we going to watch My Little Pony today? And he'd say, no, let's move on. Let's watch something else. And I never got rid of, I just kind of I liked that. I loved that cartoon. I thought that was a great cartoon. I don't watch a ton of it now, but it's funny. When he was out, I was sick one day, and he was out with his mom shopping or whatever, and he's like, oh, we got to get Dad a gift so that he would feel better. And that is what he thought to get me, which is a My Little Pony poster. So, it says a little bit about our relationship, I think.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Yeah. The great thing about having kids is having that excuse to watch kids shows and not having to explain anything. You'd be like, I don't know, kid.
Right, exactly. My Netflix queue is just all messed up. It's a mess, but I kind of don't mind,
Whatever, like what you like. No apologies.
Yeah, that's it. Right on, man. Exactly. I just like putting that in the background whenever I'm on a stream, just because it kind of like, I don't know, throws people off, but it also sets the tone a little bit, you know? It's like, this brother likes unicorns. I think I can relate to this guy. What is going on? We got a lot of questions.
Yeah, in the chat they're going a little crazy. Remember, folks, put a question before, it's just so it makes it easy to pick it out. Jay Hansen wants to know, will Baba Yaga be in the Creature Codex, and will she have a very high challenge rating? And I guess we could ask, are you working on that particular project?
That's interesting. So, well, let's talk a little bit about the Creature Codex. That's a nice sort of lead into that. And I'm pretty sure that I'm just going to answer that question, but I'll get there in a minute. Yeah. So the Creature Codex is like humming along. I think they're getting close. We've got a really cool art preview to show you later, but we're not going to do that right now. And I designed a bunch of monsters for that. But I mean, so did a lot of people, right? I mean, and also folks from the Kickstarter, they got in there, they submitted monsters. There's a ton of monsters in there. So yeah, I did do some monsters in there, and I would say that yes, Baba Yaga is in the Creature Codex. I may have attempted to, she is tough to stat block. That grandma, she's a wily character, and she's hard to pin down. And I was a little reticent to try and, I don't know, turn her into a monster, because she's such an important part of the story in the world of Midgard, right? So I was a little reticent, but yes, she will be appearing in there. Yeah, she's not a cakewalk. I don't know how. I didn't get any reports back on the playtesting on her, so I don't know how the ultimate, how she ultimately is going to look. But she was a bit of a disaster, I think, for the party. So she'll be in there for sure.
Nice. How do you think Creature Codex is going to stack up to Tome of Beasts?
I mean, it's hard because Tome of Beasts was such a home run, right? I mean, that thing was massive. I don't know if you personally had a chance to use any of those monsters in your games. Have you fought against any of them? Have you had a chance to do that?
All the above. All the above. We did a flip through of it because it's just the art was so fantastic. It was a great book. Nice thing. I had like one pet peeve about the book, and I'm probably like the only person in the world that cares.
Right.
All the little, small and tiny monsters' strengths are way too high.
Yeah. Do you mean their ability, or do you mean their CR?
No, their stat strength. I'm like, why do these guys all have positive modifiers? And some of them really high. Like, I feel like if you're a tiny or small creature and you have a really high strength, that it should be your shtick, Right. More so than like, but like, I'm sure. My guess is now I've actually learned more about the 5e D&D stat blocks is that I bet the numbers weren't working. And the only way to make the number, this is my guess anyway, the only way to make the numbers work, like for their attacks and stuff, is to raise their strength, because 5e is very specific about where you where you get your total modifier from. You can't just be like, oh, it's small, so I want to use Dex, but no, this is an X kind of attack, so it has to be strength.
That's a fair point. I think 5e monster design is slippery. I think it's a slippery thing, and they, the monsters in the monster manual, I find the challenge rating sometimes to be a little low, like a little off. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a sort of a general community sentiment, right? I mean, I don't think that's that's not groundbreaking or anything.
I've used scientific terms and industry standard terms like garbage, but but I've tried to pull back from that because I realize I'm kind of being a bit of a dick because people work hard on that. But yeah, I feel I'll settle on it's more of an art than a science when you're creating encounters, and I don't think the numbers work very well.
It's tough. And I mean, I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident in making monsters up to about, I would say, CR 10. I feel like I have enough knowledge of, how to balance it out. But then after that, honestly, it gets real slippery, especially when you start bringing in the conditions that the monsters are imposing, or you're bringing in legendary, actions and legendary resistance and that sort of stuff. It gets really slippery. The Tome of Beasts, I think, is pretty solid in terms of its math. I personally had to pull back a little bit to avoid some total party kills when I was bringing out some of those monsters, because the CR was a bit low. So I think one of the things that we've refined, I think, a little bit is the the mechanical aspect of it, the creation of it, and I think you're going to see a lot of those lessons in the Creature Codex.
We were doing a Spelljammer game, and what's what?
Sorry, I missed what you said there.
Oh yeah, probably flipping pages. We were doing a annual Spelljammer game, and I had them encounter a ship that was basically a Kraken, and covered in Skrull, or Spaceworks, if you would, and the arms from the tentacles from the Kraken, they were using it to fling these objects at the other ship, and they would land and do damage and crush people, and then they would unfold, and they were Flousnows. But during the battle, the mouth of the Kraken drops open, and I'm trying to see, are they star something? They're the mini Krakens. I used a couple of those against the party, and I totally, my son's character, I just totally blendered him. I'm trying to remember the name of it, and I'm probably in the wrong. Is it Star Spawn Kraken? No, that's not it. But they're like mini Krakens, and they're just awesome. There's just so many great monsters in this book. We did a few of the Fey Lords and Ladies.
Nice.
Because this book really added a lot of epic level monsters.
Yep.
Which we definitely couldn't need. I mean, we were just really getting them with with Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. So it was a niche that was definitely needing a filling. You guys did a good job with that. Like I said, I can just get lost in the art of this book. So I can't wait to see what you guys do with the Creature Codex.
Kobold the art is just amazing in their stuff, right? I mean, they take such great care to produce it's nice layouts, beautiful art. I have some art to share, but I just want to see if I've got any other. I got Roger Babin here. If you read the folklore on Baba Yaga, she's kind of like a goddess, so I vote no stat block. Yeah, I'm with you, right? So the thing about Baba Yaga is that she's kind of like an eternal, she's kind of like a spirit, right? An eternal sort of being. And what I wanted to do was bring her, what might her earthly form be? Oh, yeah. What's the CR on that?
The Kraken spawn. These guys are CR 9. So they had to fight the orcs were inconsequential. They're being flung off like fleas throughout the battle. But it was those guys, and even the Flousnows weren't really a challenge, but they were just a nuisance because it's if they didn't deal with them, they started mashing their crew. Right. But yeah, so a couple of those guys and the actual Kraken themselves, and the two of them ganged up on my son's character. I think he was a halfling monk. And they just started flailing with all their attacks, and they just turned him into goo.
Yeah, that was a similar experience. I was using a Chalcerai, I think, which was sort of a mage hunting spider in the Tome of Beasts, and I had to pull back a little bit. It was definitely gonna be a party weight. Just to finish my thought here on this Baba Yaga thing, I don't want anybody to think that I've written the definitive Baba Yaga stat block. The stat block that's coming is, it's an iteration, it's an idea of what she might be like in the in the material sense, and what it might be like to face her. But I don't think you can ever really kill Baba Yaga. If you know what I mean?
It's more like an avatar.
Yeah, that's how I would put it. Can I segue nicely from Avatar into a particular line of monsters that I created for the Creature Codex that I'm pretty excited about? Yeah, great. Okay, so one of the really fun things about designing monsters is that sometimes you get an assignment. You're like, okay, make this one-off monster. Here's here's something that someone researched from folklore, and it's sort of one concept, and you design it, and it's one and done, and there you go. And then sometimes you get to pitch like a spread or a series of monsters that are thematically linked and are going to appear. And so I got to do one of those for the Creature Codex, and so I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I wanted to play with the idea of oozes and aberrations from the outer realms, but I wanted to bring a kind of a different take on them. I wanted to make them lawful. I wanted them to follow a really strict set of laws, and I didn't want them to be evil, but I still wanted them to have all of the creepy, oozy, kind of dissolvey acidic goodness. So in the Creature Codex, we've got a line of monsters called the Shoth, and the Shoth are a sort of interdimensional, interstellar species of ooze creatures that follow the laws of Zom. And these, yeah, go ahead.
So while you're describing that, the first thing that jumps into my mind is the Beastie Boys song "Intergalactic." Now I want to see these guys like done up as the Beastie Boys. Get the soundtrack going.
So the main purpose of the Shoth is to uphold their laws and to follow the orders of their god Shoth in its dripping palace is what it's called. So they follow his order, its orders, and its basic order is to go out and make friends with other species, and help them solve their problems. Bring peace to their region. In some way, ingratiate themselves some way, so that species is willing to voluntarily dissolve themselves in these great big sort of dissolving pools and become one with the Shoth. But it can't be done against the will of the creatures. So it's a very, very strict. So these creatures, the Shoth, will end up making really great allies for monstrous races, or and really any race. They'll make really good allies, and a really kind of weird, difficult sort of tension, because they want to be good, but ultimately they also want to dissolve you. So it's a very sort of it's a very, very sort of strange tension in those monsters. I'm really excited, and I've got some pre-layout art of the big legendary Shoth in its dripping palace that will be in the Creature Codex, and I've been permitted to share that with you. Let me just get the artist's name on this. Is okay. I've never said this out loud before, so Roberto, if I'm saying it wrong, I apologize. Roberto Piteru, and I'm going to share that. I'll share the art with you here. Hold on one second. So I can remember how to do this. Is that working? Are we good?
We're getting there. Yes, it is. I see it. We'll see if they see it. We'll know in a moment. Right.
So here we've got Shoth in the back there, and then so he's got the big Zom in his midsection, and the Zoms are where they store their laws, and they also communicate to each other via these weird orbs in their midsections. And Shoth actually has two other creatures attached to him, two other lesser Shoth creatures attached to him. The great or terrifying part about the Shoth, if you're in combat with them, is that the Shoth can absorb other Shoth. So if you are fighting a couple of these things, and you've got a few of them wounded, the one who isn't wounded or the wounded ones can actually absorb the other ones to heal themselves. So they end up being quite hard to kill. And now that's not a total heal. They don't go back up to full or anything, but they can absorb the wounded on the battlefield to heal themselves.
So they can Voltron.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. And each Shoth can only sort of absorb a Shoth that it's lesser than it. So of course the Grand Avatar can absorb anybody, any of the Shoth, but the very lowliest of the Shoth, they don't have that ability because there's no Shoth lower than them. Anyway, beautiful. There it is. Roberto Piteru, thank you very much for to Kobold Press for letting me share this pre-layout art of this guy. Beauty.
That is awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
That's really weird. Bear with me, guys, for a moment. They said they can see and everything, and for whatever reason, it's saying we're offline, but we're not. That's really weird.
Are we offline?
I don't think we are. That's the thing. Unless we just went off all of a sudden. Hey guys in the chat. No, it looks like it's playing and everything. It's really weird. I don't know if you've used the YouTube live page. There is, but it's saying offline, and it usually tells you how strong the stream is. And right now, it's not showing the stream at all, how many people are on, or that we're even online. But they're saying we're here, which is really weird.
Let's pretend like we're still here. Let's just keep going.
Oh, no, we are, but it's just funny to me because, I don't know, the stream, we are stronger than the stream, apparently.
Daniel Dane Ernest asks, do these guys divide? Yeah, you'd expect them to, but no, they don't. They absorb one another. That was the sort of essential fun and the fantasy of these guys, is that they don't necessarily divide, they absorb.
Also, Grant Ellis had a question as well. What is your favorite Warlock Lair you've worked on?
My favorite Warlock Lair? Oh, man. Yeah, I did 6 of those. My favorite one closest to my heart. Well, I mean, I have to say that the Flame Dragon in the Dragon Coil Mountains, Phocis, I feel like that one was probably my favorite. I got to design a kind of cool sort of mini boss fiery elemental guy for that, which was pretty neat. So I would say that one was probably the one. But I don't know, man. They're all pretty. They're all, a lot of fun to write. There's something kind of haunting and quiet about the Bastion of Rime and Salt, which was set in an old dwarven sort of armory on the coast, and it was haunted. Well, I don't know if maybe I should spoil this. Anyway, it's sort of this haunted armory, and I like that one because it had some nice quiet tones to it, and some sort of, I don't know, sort of creepy quiet tone as opposed to the big bombastic dragon. But man, either of those really. But I mean, all of them, and I mean, in general, I don't know. It's hard to pick a favorite in terms of all of the layers that have been released. Like, that's such an exciting line of one shots. Anyway, there would be my answer. Yeah, good.
It's always tough anyway because it's like picking your favorite child.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, of course you have favorites, but it's funny, the writing process is like, you don't just sort of sit down and write 6 of these things, from start to finish. Like, there's an outlining process. And so you really, well, for me anyway, I really get attached to, I really play with the ideas before I finalize anything. So by the time I actually get to the point of putting words down and writing, I've got a really strong outline, and I grow really attached to the themes and the ideas, and yeah.
Absolutely. So real quick, folks, in the description you can find links to different products that John has worked on, Kobold Press's Patreon, which as well as John's social media Twitter handle. Now, I usually do not put patrons in the descriptions, only because I consider like this is more of an introduction to the guest or whatever's going on. But in this case, I made an exception, and occasionally I will, because the Warlock patron is a little bit different than a lot of other patrons that are out there.
Yeah.
You want to tell people how that's different?
Well, I mean, so, you know, like top tier designers, including Wolfgang himself, and all of the the full complement of kobolds in the Warren. They put out these booklets. I mean, for a long time I was calling them zines. I am a little older, in the 90s we called things zines. Zines were big, and then I got into some trouble, and I was like, don't call this a zine, it's a booklet. I'm like, okay, it's a booklet. So they put out a booklet every 2 months, and it's filled with now it's filled with Midgard 5th edition Midgard material, but it's very portable stuff. It's really, really highly portable. Like any of the monsters or any of the layers or even most of the articles can be easily transported into whatever campaign setting you're in, homebrew or Forgotten Realms or whatever. And it's quality and it's cool. Hang on, let's see if I can grab one here.
Yeah, one of the things too, like you heard what he just said. Let me go grab one. Usually, Patreon rewards are digital rewards, but these are physical. They mail you something in the mail.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay. Let's grab this one.
So that's really cool.
Yeah. So you get an awesome booklet now, if in black and white, and you get cool black and white line art by amazing artists. I mean, I don't know. This is Justine Jones. She did the dragon for this. She's pretty great. I mean, the artists on these books are fantastic. Lots of like great interior art too. Yeah, I mean, there's so much material, and I don't know. For me, it's such a good value. And then if you sign up, like at a certain tier, like if you sign up at the booklet tier, you get all of the layers that we put out for free, right? You can just download them. So it's a huge value. It's a huge value, and it's really cool. Anyway, yes.
The best part about today's chat is Grant Ellis breaking your stones the whole time.
What's he doing?
In the chat.
Oh, I'm not even seeing this. If I accomplish one thing today, it's to get Jon Sawatsky fired. Fired? Master the game. They're not quite monthly. We're not quite at a monthly. I think it's probably every 6 to 8 weeks right now. But again, if you sign up for the booklet, you get layers. You get these sort of one-shot layers in between, and those are produced on a monthly basis. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So I mean, it's one of the coolest things out there, and as far as patrons rewards go, getting more stuff to put in your game every month. Like I said, that's one of the, like I said, I normally don't put those in the description, but because you guys are doing something different, I thought it was definitely worthy.
I mean, look at it. It's so collectible. Look at it. Anyway. Well, sometimes you get stickers or not patches. Stickers. Sometimes you get stickers with it. Everybody loves stickers.
Oh, patches would be great for my denim jacket. What other companies have you written for? How long have you been writing for Kobold?
Okay. Well, this is a bit awkward. So I can talk about the things I've written for Kobold Press.
Okay.
That's what I'm allowed to talk about right now.
Okay. Gotcha.
You know what? I got started in winter 2013, November, December 2013. I mean, obviously, I've been playing games forever. So, I mean, I played the basic red box when I was 9 years old, way back in. And so I've been playing forever. I didn't really. I mean, it never occurred to me that I would have stories to tell and share so widely until pretty later on. So, but in 2013, I started writing a series of articles for the Kobold Press blog called Prepared. And the prepared articles were sort of like an attempt to provide game masters material if the party sort of just went way off the rails for the night. And oh my God, what am I going to do? And here's some, you know, some fun stuff that you can kind of help improvise with. So that blog series, I wrote that for, oh man. Yeah, well, there's the first, I mean, okay, so that collection, that book is a collection of the blog articles, plus a few ones that never made it on the blog, or were never published on the blog, written just for the book. That book is a collection of those blog articles, basically. And that's how I got started. And so if you go back, like if you go onto the Kobold Press blog and you go back, or search, I think you can search under author tag, you can find some of the first things I ever wrote. And they are not shameful and embarrassing. So, you know, go back and look at them. No, I mean, it's fine. You know, you got to get a start somewhere, right? And and ultimately then the one-shot adventures, I kind of like worked this format, is what I'm saying. I worked a format for developing usually single encounter, sometimes multiple encounter, one-shot adventures. And my word budget was like 1,000 words or 1,100 words or something like that. So one of the secrets is that that it's really hard. It's actually really hard to write adventures if you have 1,000 words. Like that's not an easy thing to do. So you really have to focus on the format. So the success of those early articles led to Wolfgang sort of wanting to publish it. And my friend and cartographer, Michon Cantrill, who I've gamed with since I was a kid, he had drawn the maps for all the blog articles, and so he ended up drawing the maps for the books too. And that was my introduction to writing for Kobold Press. And I ended up, and then from there, like I have a full-time writing gig in the day. I'm a technical writer. So I write literally all day as a, you know, muggle. My muggle job is writing technical manuals for agricultural, you know, equipment, which is exciting as you think it is.
I was about to say.
Yeah.
Do you ever sneak any of that into your fantasy writing?
Oh yeah, because everybody in the D&D world, everybody wants to know a little bit how to put an augur together, right, Dave?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I do. I write pretty much all day. So so then I ended up also writing in the evenings a lot, and I have written a ton of stuff over the past 5 years. Most of my published stuff is with Kobold Press. Most of the published stuff that I can talk about is with Kobold Press.
I'm going to find out what this other stuff is you can't talk about.
I did a little bit of work for Yen-World. I wrote an article for Yen-World as well. But by and large, I'm a kobold. And I work for Kobold Press. Yeah.
That's funny. There's going to be a blog article about what you did before. I'll just tell you. Doug, get on that. I need this done. I need this thing done, Doug. Start sleuthing. I warn you. My chief in Nerdarchy has a degree in journalism. He will root out all the details.
That's awesome. Yep. I mean, that's good. That's just fine. I think the prepared collection that you just held up was probably the first thing. I think that was my first. Yeah, that was definitely my first print publication. That was the first time. What a learning experience that was too. Like, man, that was a crazy learning experience.
Do you have advice for someone that wants to do writing for RPGs? How to get started?
Absolutely. My first suggestion is get a really good job.
Yeah. Step one. All right, we got step one.
And quit video games.
Step two. I agree.
Hobbies.
I agree. I do not video game just because it's a huge time sink.
You can't. I mean, look. I mean, come on. I mean, I it's not like I never video game. I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, for me personally, I'm not chasing writing Dungeons and Dragons material as my primary career in the sense of like what pays for my life, but it is essentially what I do other than my my Muggle job, right? Other than technical writing. So, you know, I'm being glib, but honestly, the I don't know, you know, it's like I get asked that a lot. Like, how would you? And how would you, or what advice would you give to someone who's starting out? And it's like my basic stance is that everyone has a story that is worth sharing in them, and some people have tons of stories, or they're just constantly generating, you know, really creative, and other people may have, you know, one really good story. But everyone's got it. Everyone's got that ability to do that. And I would say don't get ahead of yourself. Focus on, like, don't worry about if you're just starting. Don't worry about pitching your campaign setting, or your, like, start small and be persistent with the smaller publishers. Look for those openings. Look for their general calls. You know, honestly, the Kobold Press blog is a fantastic place to experiment and play with ideas. And I know they're generally looking for you know, good new quality content. And but start small. No, honestly, dude, there's like ideas are everyone has ideas, right? Everyone's got ideas, and everyone wants those ideas published. And I'm sure that everyone's campaign setting idea is fantastic, but my advice would be just start small. Start really small. That's my advice.
The Dr. Doofenshmirtz method.
Right. Exactly.
So some of you may get the reference or not, but and it loses something when you explain it. But Phineas and Ferb is a cartoon my kids used to watch a lot, and he's, you know, he started off wanting to take over the world, and he got the advice, why don't you do something a little more manageable? so he took that advice, and he's only trying to take over the tri-state area. And being from the tri-state area has a special place in my heart. So.
I'm at the point now where I'm just trying to take control of the refrigerator. You know,
yeah,
that thing is out of control. You know, yeah.
Nice. So, I mean, if you can answer this question, fine. If not, that's okay too. You know, so you kind of got started writing on the Kobold Press website on their blog. Was that a paid gig, or was that is that volunteer?
Yeah. Well. Okay, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, the blog is intended to be a sort of the blog is an introductory, an experimental space. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on that blog, and yes, it pays. Also, there are articles that don't pay. I'm not sure I haven't written for the blog in a little while, so I'm not sure exactly what their policy was, but yes, in general, absolutely, yes, I got paid for those.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and there are, you know, several publications, web publications that do pay, and then there's a bunch that don't. So it's like, you know, either finding one that does pay, even better, or you can volunteer for maybe on some of the other ones and maybe cut your teeth. We are volunteers right now. We're looking to go to paid once the patron gets once the money comes in to support that.
Yeah, understood. I mean, it's hard, right? It's really hard because on the one hand, like, I really believe that you should that we should pay our contributors and pay our artists and pay our writers, and people should be and that should just be happening. We should have that ability to do that. But there are also certain sort of collaborative setups where that doesn't work, or certainly if you're starting out, it gets a little rough to do that. I don't know. That's such a mire. It's such a tricky business. There was a point where I was willing to, write small pieces for very little or, nothing. I'm at a point now where I don't work that way anymore. Like I don't do that. I don't write for free anymore. But yeah, it was certainly something that I was willing to do initially. Luckily, I didn't really have to. That was good.
Which is awesome, and you know, everyone's journey and story is a little bit different as well.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
and I just imagine no one's gonna write the technical stuff you do as your day job for free anyway. Like,
Oh no, 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 no. Hell
so
no.
so I'm sure that helped you a lot as far as, you know, getting your foot in the door professionally, because you're already a professional writer, just in a different genre. You know, you already had the chops, and you know, some other writers, maybe they do, maybe they don't. Like I am a terrible technical writer, and
Right.
that, you know, for a while, you know, Nerdarchy would write all of the articles on our website before we did get a lot of help from the community, and they supplied a lot of the articles now, and they were terrible when me and Ted would write them. Like conceptually, you know, and from a creative standpoint, yeah, they were fine, but technically terrible.
Right.
People would show up with red markers.
Well, writing is hard, right? Writing is a hard thing to do, and I work in an industry. I work in an industry, you know, and I don't. This isn't across the board, but in general, engineers are not amazing writers, right? They are a lot of things. Design engineers, equipment engineers. They're a lot of things, but they're not often fantastic writers. And so, so it's a real skill, and it's worth something, you know, to be able to do it. And yeah, for sure, I would say that my experience in technical writing and writing in general helped me a lot. Certainly, it helped me to communicate my ideas really clearly and sort of formulate things in a way that is easy for people to read. Because that's essentially what my job is. I turn technical garbage into something that a sixth grader could read. That's literally my job, right? It's like, oh, here's PhD computer science, you know, process writing, and I have to turn it into like 5 steps on how to use this program. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then like somebody like me who's writing, I'm like, I don't even know what a preposition is. Sentence structure, huh? Like, what do you mean? Not my paragraph can't be one sentence.
Yeah, you know, I mean, and like for people who are wanting to write, like, I would say you if you really want to write, if you really want to be, I mean, game design is different though, because game design, like designing D&D stuff, is writing is one part of it. But then there's a lot of other parts of it, right? There's a lot of other stuff that you have to be really good at. But I would say you've got to love words. Like, you got to really love words. Like fall in love with the words that you're choosing. Don't choose them, you know, lightly. They're important. The words that you choose are important.
Or just abuse the hell out of your editor.
Yeah, well, we're editors. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Actually, but like a good editor, though, a good editor isn't about catching your copy editing mistakes. A good editor is about catching your, like, you know, the incongruities of your story and just being like, this doesn't make any sense. You need to tighten this up and this up. That's the sort of editor that I'm interested in, or that I like working with, right? That's the sort of editing process that I like, because I don't know, man. I mean, sometimes you turn manuscripts in and you're like really confident, and maybe your actual like grammar is nailed, but you've got some pretty big gaps in the plot, or you know, and that's where editors are just crucial. Oh man, a good editor is like, it's a lifeline, such a lifeline.
Worth our weight in gold for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So Mark wants to know, if I'm considering buying one thing from Kobold as a DM, what would really enhance my game?
Well, okay. I mean, I don't know. That's a hard question.
Do you want a campaign setting? Do you want?
Yeah, like... I mean, I'm really excited about the Midgard World Book, just because it's like, it's a brick of incredible lore written by really talented people, and it's such a crazy great. You know what? Okay. I mean, of course, I'm going to say the Midgard World Book and the Hero's Handbook. But I mean, that also sort of presupposes that you're willing to, oh no, man, absolutely not. You could still pull in some Midgard stuff into your campaign world. I'm going to say solidly right now, that you should go and get the Midgard World Book and the accompanying Heroes Handbook. And I think the Heroes Handbook comes in Pathfinder and 5th edition. So whatever you're sort of, because the actual World Book that's about like this thick is system neutral. I'm pretty sure.
Is that the one that includes all the deep magic in it?
Some of it.
A lot of it, I should say, not all of it.
It included a lot of Dylan's 5th edition deep magic stuff, and but I don't think it's not comprehensive. It's not comprehensive, but there's a lot of stuff in there.
The deep magic series is great, and they're only like $3, $4, two. I'm going to say confidently $2 to $4 a piece. And we've reviewed all of them. The last one will be going up, I think, this week, Dragon Magic. But yeah, like some of them are, most of them are really fantastic. Elemental, Clockwork, Ley Lines, the Rune Magic, the Rune Magic, Ring Magic. There are some really fantastic ones in there. Of all of them, there was only like 2 of them that I were kind of like meh on. Yep. But for the most part, as a series, it was solid. And honestly, I wouldn't feel like I've wasted any of my money on any of them, even the meh ones, because of for the price, the art that you get, in my opinion, is worth it.
Yes.
Yes. And they all have something you can take and put into your game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah. I think that would be my answer to that question, and certainly the Deep Magic series is also pretty great. Of course, I should be saying my prepared books, of which there are 2, which you should definitely have. But I'm gonna say that new. Well, I mean that, or also the Tome of Beasts.
I use the Angel encounter from Prepared 1 so far.
The Angel one. Oh, at the top of the hill
with the throne. Yeah.
Right. How did that go? I'm always curious to find out how that stuff went. What did you change when you were doing it? Do you remember?
I'd change anything. I used it
straight.
I dropped it straight in as it was, and the big bad in that one got blendered and spaghettied by my PCs. His minions, the minions were a bit tougher, but the actual big bad they just ripped apart. Trapped the big bad in a column, essentially a column of blade barrier, and then my Gobolo Rangers just destroyed them because they have sharpshooter, so they were easily able to just like pin cushion them. So it was a good encounter though. I liked it, and like I said, I didn't change anything. It worked. It had some really key, interesting elements to it that I thought were cool. There's a nice twist on it. So well done, sir.
Yeah. Oh well. I'm glad that that's fun. I'm always surprised when I hear that people just kind of drop these things straight in. When I write these things, I always assume that people are just be like, "That's terrible. I'm scrapping that, and I'm going to bring this in." I assume there's a lot of that sort of going on, but it's good to hear that it works. Well, I certainly hope that it works as is.
Oh yeah. I mean, excellent. And there's other stuff.
Do you ever find, like, I find as a DM, I'm constantly wrestling with making big bads actually a challenge. Do you find that generally to be true, or do you manage to sort it out? If
you use them as the sole antagonists in the encounter, yes, they're either way too strong, or they're or like, oh, round 1 went by, my monster is go again.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I definitely have that problem, and it's always this weird line between like, it's like, oh well, if they handled that CR8 at 5th level, no problem. So clearly, I'm going to bring in the CR10. But there's like a weird bounds thing where suddenly it's really bad, right? It's like you can't just kind of keep amping it up. You just have to add minions or add context to the encounter to make it work.
Yeah, waves work really nicely. Waves of added waves to the encounter, so it's almost like multiple encounters but strung together, so they can't rest in between them. When I design an encounter, I don't really look at the challenge at all. I will throw monsters in there more like hazards or obstacles than monsters because they're so weak, but at the same time they kind of have to deal with them. They're in the way.
Right.
And if you use the CR system for finding the encounter XP, that really mucks with that. When the truth of the matter is, those monsters are inconsequential because they're undead, for instance, and your cleric is just going to dust a bunch of them at once, or your mage can throw a fireball and incinerate them.
Absolutely.
So I go, okay, well, how much can this monster do if it hits somebody? I'm like, does that kill the mage in one hit? All right, then it's probably not too strong. What?
Does it kill the mage in one hit? Is your sort of starting barometer for your monster? It's like, is it going to kill that guy in one hit?
Yeah, because inevitably that's what's going to happen.
Right.
Because you can't count on. And then I go, well, what what abilities do my players have access? Is 36 Sturges too much of an encounter? I'm like, they only got a hit point apiece or whatever it is, and the bard's going to cast sleep and put them all to sleep, right? And then you get into the encounter, and your bard doesn't do what you figure he would probably do, or
he used the sleep spell like an encounter back, and all of a sudden
So, and also we're not really combat heavy. Like we'll do like a combat a session.
Right.
So
Yes.
like our monsters are always dealing with like the nuclear situation. Although it's a good way to get my players occasionally though, because they don't expect the second encounter. Right, for the evening, and if I hit them with the third, that's unheard of. So they're like, at that point,
we've already blown all the resources.
Yeah, they're running on fumes. So I look at like the way I think Watts says you're supposed to play the game, or the way they suggest it, and like that idea of like 6 to 8 encounters. Even including like exploration and social encounters seems really high for us, right?
Right.
Because I guess like the social encounters maybe last a little bit longer in our games. I don't really know, or maybe we don't play as long. We were just doing it wrong. I don't know. But it just plays out different at our table, is what I've found.
Yeah, different than the 6 to 8. You mean?
Yeah. Which is gonna. I think that's probably why like the challenge system just doesn't work for us. Like, we're using deadly and beyond deadly all the time, and it's like, no problem.
You're nailing it. If you're doing one encounter per session, I mean, and if your party is kind of always entering those things with near full resources, that's the CR. The challenge rating stuff is not going to work super great, right?
But you know what? That being said, we were like, my monsters will on a regular basis get decimated by my players, and then I just did like one where I was like, I did wraith encounters back to back.
Right.
And like it was one of the few times that they ran terrified from the wraiths were just coming up out of the floor and zapping them, and it was beautiful.
That's nice.
So yeah, I don't know. I used to be really a kind of a deadly DM in my earlier days, and I've kind of relaxed a lot since then. But every once in a while, like I get that urge, or in my Scarlet Sisterhood game recently, I've ramped it up a lot because of one of the players was like, Jen's encounters are usually a lot tougher. I'm like, oh, really? You just turned down the gauntlet. Now I'm like flinging them from 200 feet in the air, and
it's true. Hey, I think as a player and as a DM, my priority. Not priority is the wrong word, but the thing that I'm interested in interacting with in the game becomes less about the mechanics of the thing and more about the fun and the story of the thing. And I don't mean to separate those. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not, right side by side and equally important and can are part of the picture. But certainly when I was younger, it was like killing the party was sort of a goal, right? Of being a dungeon master. And now, as a much older man, I'm more interested in facilitating their journey as characters. And sometimes that journey ends in a garbage pit with an audio. I mean, whatever, right? But normally, I'm interested in sort of letting that character have a journey. Anyway, I find that's what I find. That's what I play for now more than anything.
No, absolutely. You know, how we used to play way back when and how we play now is completely different. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'll be 43 this year, and you know, I was introduced to the red box when I first saw it for the first time, and also really soon after that, Gamma World as well. I guess that had to be the first edition.
Definitely, I played Gamma World as well. Yeah.
And that was actually the first RPG I ever played, but I was in like kindergarten. Like I had an older neighbor that came over and looked, hey, look what I just got, you know, the red box. We took it out, we looked at it. I don't think we really even played it. And then I played like 1 or 2 sessions of Gamma World, and then I wouldn't touch an RPG until later, until my early tweens, or my late tweens or early teens. And that's when I really, really started playing. And you know, back then it depended. Like we had our regular GM who tried to kind of like, he was much older than the rest of us. He was like, you know, 18, 19, older brother to one of the girls in the neighborhood. And he would always like play sports with us and stuff. And he's like, hey, you guys want to play some Dungeons and Dragons? And, you know, it's kind of how we got started. And when we would play with him, you know, he would try and introduce us to more role-playing type stuff, but we're kind of like, we just want to kill stuff. And then when we played on our own, it was definitely Monty Hall campaigns and,
right,
you know, killing the monsters and things that didn't make sense. And
yeah. And I had a character, dude, at one point who was carrying 30 crossbows. Just because that was a thing.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, so it's funny. It's like I actually, when even say designing a monster, what I start with, I don't ever start with like the mechanic of the thing. I always start with what is the core story of this monster? What is the fun of this monster? What is the main little nugget of fantasy that is going to drive the stat block, that will drive the traits, that will drive the actions? And if I can get that core kind of fun and fantasy down to like one sentence, like what is this thing in one sentence, then I know that I've done my job. Because what I want as a DM when I'm playing the game and I'm like, holy crap, I need some monsters, I want to be able to go into that book and identify immediately with the art, but also immediately with that little, just the text under the monster name. Is this monster's story right for what's happening right now? Sometimes I look for that even before I would look for a challenge rating. And so anyway, so that gives you a sense of how important I think that stuff is at this point. Not that making them mechanically sound isn't the very next priority, because they have to be balanced if they're going to be fun. I mean, we're playing a game with math and systems. We gotta respect that. But always for me at the beginning is, can I write this thing as a one-sentence TV guide kind of thing? And I take that across to adventure writing as well. It's like, is the story of this, can I express the story of this in one sentence? The party does X, or something happens and this is the main, for me, that's really important. Find that essence and find that core.
Yeah.
Boy, we have some folks feeling old in the chat. Don't feel old. You're good. You're good.
If you were a dragon, you would just be getting more powerful.
That's it. That's it. You're just jumping up the stat block now. Don't sweat it.
Yeah. I used to prep for games, and I draw out the map, and I would write modules essentially, and I would write flavor text and then all the other stuff. And now I write like 3 sentences and be like, all right, let's see what they do with this tonight.
Great. Totally. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, as you get, and I think for me that changes too as we switch from edition to edition. It's like initially, if I'm playing a new system, I'm pretty heavy prep, right? To kind of like make sure that I know what I'm doing. But as you get more familiar with the system, man, improvising is actually Grant Ellis is a fantastic DM for this, and I know he's talked about that quite a bit, about sort of getting familiar enough with different ways of running a game so that prep is pretty minimal. You've got your themes, you've got your sort of basically the monsters that you're going to play with, or what is coming up, what are the hazards and opponents that are coming up, but it's basically an improvised situation. And I think that's cool. I like that. I don't mind that at all. I think it's okay. As a technical writer and as an author, etc., I tend to just, my instinct is just to write everything, right? I'm just like, sometimes my campaign prep, you know, did you get a chance to see, we're wrapping up here, I can see that, but did you get a chance to see Chris Perkins' session prep format, his 1-page? Did you ever see that?
No, I would actually like to see that. It's very curious.
It's really cool. It's like, so it's like, what's tonight's session about? And then it's on one piece of paper, and he's like, I'm going to make this my prep, I'm going to do this on 1 page. And what he prioritizes, you know, what gets words and what doesn't, that was very instructive for me as a dungeon master who tended to, like, you know, go a bit long on the prep.
I'm going to try and remember to Google that. You know what? So here's the other thing too, is when it comes to RPGs and D&D, you should focus on the parts that you really enjoy of the game. And if you enjoy prep, there's nothing wrong with spending hours and hours of doing it.
Definitely. And oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I wouldn't try to get, I wouldn't recommend anyone stop doing that, for sure.
But, you know, at the same token, I've heard people, the GMs who, we've had Sean McGovern on, and he said it on air, so feel confident. You know, I'm not outing him or anything. You know, he's always felt that, you know, DMs that are kind of improv DMs are kind of phoning it in, and I'm like, it's not that you don't spend time working on your campaign and your games. You've just changed how you do it. Like now, instead of writing a bunch of stuff, I might be driving to the session or driving around at my day job or something when I had a day job, just thinking about the game and what could happen and what could possibly go on. And like that became like my prep. It's not like you don't put any effort or energy into it. You just you're not writing it out, and there's no syllabus of this is what's going to happen. You become more reactive as a GM, I believe. At least I believe that's like one of the better ways to do it. It's not the only way to do it, but you become more reactive to what your players are doing. So you feed off of them, or I should say it's a style of doing it, where you feed off of them. Yes. And, you know, you give back whatever they give to you. Oh, you guys want to build a bathhouse? Well, you know, permits, you're going to need to get the money. You're going to have to find contractors. You know, whatever it is that your players want to do, whatever becomes important to them. Oh, you guys have a laundry list of things that you need to do. You got to take care of these hags. You have to, you know, figure out, you know, why Deneen's father-in-law is trying to suck the soul out of her firstborn, you know. So, like, you get all these things, and it's like, well, which one of those things do you guys want to tackle tonight? Oh, okay, you want to deal with the hags? Well, you know, you're going to need more information, so maybe you're going to have to go to the Elven City and you know, study at their libraries and figure out, what the deal is. Now you know what the deal with the hags are. And, you know, so some of it is like, yeah, it is maybe a little more difficult for some people because you're making it up on the fly. And it becomes really important to take a lot of notes while you're GMing.
Well, man, I mean, you nailed it. Like, I think that, and it depends on what we're doing. Like, if we're talking convention play, or we're talking, doing a one shot at the local gaming shop where you don't know anybody, yeah, you best come prepared for that. Like, you better have your stuff. In my opinion, right? But if you're talking about,
was that a product pun?
What's that?
Was that a product pun?
I don't know. Did I make one? I didn't even.
You said come prepared.
Yes, it was. It was a product pun. Thank you. Anyway, my point is that if you're in a gaming group with people that you know and that you've played with a long time, that your relationship with your players, that your players are interacting. They're interacting more with you as a dungeon master and less with your notes. And that's a cool thing to be at. That's a cool place to be at, is that sort of creative, collaborative storytelling. That doesn't mean don't do your homework. That doesn't mean don't obsess about it in the shower. That doesn't mean, don't bring your notes. But if you're in a place where you can trust the people you're with, you can do some pretty great, amazing things. And I don't think that's phoning it in. That said, I definitely have played in games where the DM was phoning it in, and it sucked. So
yeah. It's just kind of knowing what your players want and need, you know,
right.
and that part can be a little tricky. If you have players that just like to role play with each other as a GM, you really don't have to do a lot.
I love that. Yep.
But what you do have to do is figure out when you do have to do something and do it, right? That is the tricky part, you know. Or have to be able to react to whatever it is they decide to do and they come up with.
That's right.
You know, so those are the key. It's a different skill set.
It is, and it's a different. It places different demands on the players as well, right?
Like, you know, my Scarlet Sisterhood game, there are times that I feel like I could just walk away from the computer and come back and it'll still be happening, you know, as the GM, because they like to role play with each other. They have certain NPCs they want to go see and visit, you know. Several of them have families, so, you know, we cut away to scenes where they're role playing, and I have to, you know, role play a husband or a child or a niece or a nephew or the grandma, you know, a grandmother, and it's just a different kind of game.
It is, yes, absolutely correct. Yeah.
And it's like feeding them back things that they did earlier. Like they defeated some ogres, they killed one, and they captured the other one. So later on, I had that same ogre show up as an indentured servant to this halfling grandmother. So I you know, like, they weren't expecting that, and now they often spend time. They've also have gotten him addicted to halfling pipeweed too. But so
there are a couple of questions here. I don't know, when are we out here? Do we have time to? We
are out about. I'm gonna go at 7 minutes ago.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, and I actually have to run. I do have some things to do.
All right.
But I have enjoyed talking to you, John. It was great having you on. I really appreciate you coming on.
I really enjoyed coming on, and I hope that I hope to be back. I hope we can have another conversation, you know, in the future, distant future, when I'm allowed to talk about other things, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe I can round up a group of kobolds and have a bunch of you on at once. That would be fun.
Let's do it. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for the chat, hanging out. Sorry if we didn't get to your questions, and I just totally let time get away from me, and I'm like, oh, I should have been leaving 5 minutes ago. But
yeah, we kind of went on. All right. Thanks a lot, man.
So until next time, guys, stay nerdy.